did you want this role?
Thank you. I wanted this job for a long time. I've worked in police and I'm passionate about making New Zealand safer.
Well, you've said that your priorities are backing the police, community safety and retail crime. But that sort of sounds like parroting of Labour Party policy. So what impact specifically do you want to have in this portfolio?
Well, in order to make communities safer, there's three main areas I want to focus on. The first is backing the police.
Yes, but this is Labour Party policy. So I'm asking about you personally. What impact do you want to have?
The two areas I want to see a real improvement on is retail crime, to make sure that those small businesses, with my small business hat on as well, are feeling safe and have the protections in place that they need. We've seen retail crime track down since August last year, but I want to drive that further and see further changes. In that vein as well, I'd like to mention I'd also like to continue the good work that's been done in cracking down on criminal networks and organised crime.
What is your message to gangs, Ginny?
I think that gangs need to be known they cannot profit from peddling methamphetamine. We have got more frontline officers than we've ever had before, and very successful operations like Towhiro and Cobalt that have specifically focused on cracking down on gangs.
Yeah, but methamphetamine use is up.
Methamphetamine is a harmful drug that destroys lives in New Zealand, and we will have 700 more frontline officers specifically focused on cracking down on organised crime.
But meth use is up.
We will continue to tackle the challenges that organised criminal... so again, I've mentioned operations such as Towhiro and Cobalt, which have had record numbers of weapons seized, drugs seized and arrests made.
But you can't say that those are effective and they're fixing the problem, because meth use is up.
Meth use is a definite problem. It's an area that I've worked on under the previous national government. I'm familiar with how complex a problem it is for New Zealand, and the fact that meth use is up does not change the fact that we will continue to try and dismantle and tackle organised criminal networks.
But how will you have success there where others haven't?
We will continue to put more resource into the front line. In the past, we've not had that frontline strength. So with an additional 1,800 officers and 700 of those specifically focused on organised crime, we will continue to be making a focus in that area.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about retail crime. I know that that area is a focus for you. What is the solution there, do you think? You've talked about fog cannons and sort of measures that shop owners can take, but what else can you do?
Well, I was out in West Auckland yesterday in Andersen with the area commander and also the unit that's focused on reducing retail crime. So it was really good to meet shop owners in person and to understand firsthand what some of their concerns are. As I've said, it's good that we're seeing those numbers of ram raids track down since last August, but the two specific schemes, one led by police and one led by MB, that will provide additional safety measures for those small business owners, I think will continue to improve.
Is that it though? Because that's defensive, it's reactive, isn't it? That is not actually at the heart of this problem, which is youth crime, getting to those youths who are out there committing ram raids. That's how you solve the problem, isn't it?
Youth crime, you're exactly right. Youth crime is a complex issue, and those drivers of crime, such as family violence and mental health, are difficult and complex areas. We've got some really good programs. In Auckland, Kotahi Te Whakaaro has been put into counties Manukau and now rolled out into Waitakere. That's showing some really good stats, particularly in that 10 to 14 age group, which has been problematic.
Yeah, but we're seeing youth crime is up in counties Manukau.
Youth crime, the stats that were out this week showed that it's relatively similar to pre-COVID levels. So we are seeing of those high-risk repeat offenders, programs such as Kotahi Te Whakaaro has done a good job at reducing recidivism.
It's often said by the government that youth crime is trending down, and I've been wondering whether that is true, because many of the young people who are out doing these ram raids and crime at night, they never reach the court system, and the youth crime figures are only counting prosecutions. So do we even have a true idea of the level of youth crime if we're not counting those kids?
From what I understand and the information that I've received is that a youth aid officer will always be brought when there's been an offence committed, and the pathway forward from there depends on the specific circumstances.
But that's not reflected in the statistics, is what I'm saying. So how do we even really know the level of youth crime if we're only counting prosecutions? Presumably there are a large cohort of kids that never reach court.
Well, my number one focus is to make sure New Zealanders feel safe, and part of that is addressing those underlying drivers of crime.
Yes, but what I'm asking
family violence is a key area specific to youth crime.
I'm asking you, how do we even know what the actual complete picture is with youth crime if we're not counting those kids?
From what I understand, we have good figures in that space, understanding the level of offending, and it is.
What are those figures?
I do not have them with me. I'm sorry. I don't have them in front of me. I know that I've seen from the justice figures released this week that the levels of crime across a number of areas is similar to what we were seeing pre-COVID.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that those kids are never counted. They never reach the system. So we don't really even have any idea of how good or bad youth crime is, if it's tracking up or tracking down, because many of those kids never even go through court.
Well, from my understanding, when a police officer is called out to a specific incident and a young person is referred to youth justice, the next step of that would be potentially a family group conference.
Yes, but
so that would be recorded as an incident within the youth court.
Right, and so does that count every kid? When the police are being called out to an incident where a young person has broken the law or been charged with an incident, police will have information. So there are police statistics have been interesting in the past. So we have tier one offences, which is a code. So, for example, an aggravated robbery, that will be coded. But if we're wanting to find out specific numbers, such as ram raids, then we have to do a bit of a greater search. So we're still able to achieve that information. Personally, I'd like to see a bit more accuracy from police in that space. Yeah, well, I look forward to that too. The former Police Minister, Chris Hipkins, told me that there is a really hard-to-reach group of young people behind these ram raids and the spike in youth crime that we have been seeing, that we really need to focus on. Who are they, Minister?
They are. I've seen them in my own area, in the Hutt Valley. I've dealt with instances locally outside Queensgate Mall and the bus terminal around that area. There are a small number of high-risk children and young people who have come from very complex backgrounds.
How many are we talking about?
And some of the figures I've seen over the last short time, we're looking at about 80 who are the high-risk repeat offenders.
Right across the country?
Yes, that's right.
So they're causing a lot of trouble.
The other thing what happens in those instances, like in the Hutt that we've seen, that there might be one or two instigators, but they actually get a lot of onlookers or people using social media, so they have a bit of a hub of others coming around them. Those on the outer sides might not be offenders, they might not even be participating in crime, but they're still coming along to be led by those individuals.
So there's a hardcore group of around 80 kids across the country that are at the heart of this mayhem. And what are you going to do to find them? Because the previous ministers haven't been able to sort of get to those kids, and it seems to me that that is at the heart of this problem. So surely 80 kids, we can find and re-engage these 80 kids.
Well, I think programs such as Kotahi Te Whakaaro, which is operating in counties
that program. They're right across the country.
Many of those young children have been referred to programs such as Kotahi Te Whakaaro. That was the purpose of setting up that program, was particularly to target that younger cohort that were not coming forward.
Okay, and so so how many are out there right now, do you think?
Police, I could ask any given district. Districts are well aware, and when I visited Waitakere and Henderson yesterday, they had a good understanding when I spoke to those youth aid officers of the particular individuals that they were watching.
So re-engaging those kids, how do you do that?
You work with the entire whānau, so it's not just police, and this is some of the challenges that I'm looking forward to grappling with. It's other agencies as well. We'll be working with a range of other government agencies to make sure the family that child comes from has a wraparound support plan in place.
Well, there is a lot of work to do. Jenny Andersen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Nation this morning.